Hi everyone, Kelly here, and today I want to do the mid-year book freakout tag. And this is one of those things that like everyone does around June, and I'm probably towards the end of everyone doing this, but I really wanted to do it to like talk about some of the books that I really have stood out to me so far this year. So here we go. And since I'm doing this outside, I really didn't want to drag a bunch of books outside, so I'm just gonna put pictures of everything up as we go. So the first question is the best book you've read so far this year. And I have to say that my favorite book so far this year is probably Beach Read by Emily Henry. I just absolutely loved every moment of reading this book. It was just one of those books that while I was reading it, I'm like, this is going to be a new favorite, and I'm going to definitely be rereading this probably soon. It was just so much fun, and yet at the same time had some serious issues. I loved it. So this is a contemporary romance about this woman who is a writer, and she has inherited her dad's beach house, and so she goes there to write a new book because one is due to her publisher, and she's like having a hard time writing about romance because she's just learned out that her parents' marriage had a lot of problems in it that she didn't know about, and so she's having trouble writing a fluffy, happy romance. And then her next door neighbor is someone that she knew from college who is also a writer, and he writes literary fiction. So they decide to help each other out and write in each other's genres. And I just loved it. I thought the romance had a lot of chemistry to it. I also really just loved the two main characters as people. Like, we got to really know them and what was going on in their lives. Like, there was more happening than just the romance. Like, they both had a lot of stuff to deal with. And I just thought it was so well done. It kept me interested the entire time. I loved it, and we'll be rereading it. So yeah, best book so far. And then number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far in 2020. And I actually read quite a few sequels, and so this one, and several that I gave 5 stars. So this one was kind of hard to think of, but I decided to go with one that I read towards the beginning of the year, which was Never Seen by Shannon Messenger. And this is, I think, book 4 in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series. Yeah, I think it's book 4. And I've just been like loving this series, and like each book getting better and better. And so I just really enjoy this one. They introduced some new characters, so it kept the book series fresh, because now we have some new people that will be kind of in the main group to follow. We've lost some people, you know, there's definitely stakes in this. So I love, it's a middle grade fantasy in case I haven't talked about it before. And so I like how even though it's a long series, they're adding new people in. People are either dying or betraying or whatever, and so have, you know, left the story or have gone out of the main light. And I just really like that when a series keeps itself fresh and changes up things and does things that are unexpected. So I'm really loving this series, and that was probably the best sequel I've read so far. Number 3 is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. And there are so many. This year with COVID-19 shutting down libraries for a while, I haven't been able to get a hold of all of the new releases I want to get to. You know, I think more people are using their online library stuff, so there's longer waits for some new releases. So there are new releases that I either just got a hold of or I'm still waiting for. So I'm just going to talk about 3 real quick. And all 3 of these I now have in my possession, whether from the library or like an ebook or whatever. And so I will be reading them soon. And the first one is Burn by Patrick Ness. This is a fantasy book that he just wrote. I haven't heard anybody online talking about it, so I really want to read it and see how I feel, because I've loved everything that Patrick Ness has written that I've read so far. I haven't read all of his books, but I've read 2 of his books and loved them both, gave them 5 stars. So I am very interested, and I think this one involves dragons, so I'm excited to try that out. And then I have a library copy, physical copy of both 8 Perfect Murders by Patrick Swanson, which I really want to read soon. But the reason I haven't read it yet is because I'm doing this whole video project, which I mentioned before, where I'm reading all of the books that the 8 Perfect Murders are based on. And I kind of got derailed by COVID, and I still have 1 more to read. So that'll happen soon, but that's why I haven't read it yet. I meant to read it right when it came out, and I got derailed on my project. So that's going to happen definitely in the next month. And then I also got the book Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Azevedo from the library, and I will definitely be reading this soon. And it's a book in verse, so I think it'll go quickly. So those are the 3 that I finally got a hold of. So I really want to read these new releases. Number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And once again, I have several of these, but I'm going to talk about the 2 that I am like most like looking forward to reading, like so excited to get a copy of. One is Home Before Dark by, sorry, I'm looking at my notes and I'm trying to remember what I put down. Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and this is his newest thriller, and I've heard people like loving it because a lot of people got either ARCs or Book of the Month had this as one of their choices, so a lot of people that have Book of the Month got that. And I don't have Book of the Month, and I don't really want to buy a hardcover because I just don't really buy a hardcover, especially thrillers, because I don't necessarily read thrillers again. So I'm waiting at the library, and I'm like way behind on the list for the library. The book hasn't even come out at the point that I'm filming this, and there's already like 100 people waiting for the book online. So it might be a while before I get to this, and I'm just like, it's driving me nuts that all these people keep like talking about it online, and I really want this book because I really enjoyed the last 2 thrillers I read by him. So I want to get a hold of that. And then the other one that I'm looking forward to is Well Played by Jen DeLuca, and this is the sequel to Well Met, which was a romantic comedy that I read last year, and I read it twice. Sorry, I had to mute my computer. I read it twice last year and absolutely loved it, and I'm very happy that it has a sequel. This is like one of those companions, so it's following another person in the series, and I think this is coming out in September if it's still staying with its original publication date. So I hope that I can get that from the library when it comes out. And then next one, number 5, is Biggest Disappointment. And the thing with this, when I was looking through all the books I had read, I could have talked about some that were like 2 stars, something like that, but really the things that most disappoint me are the books that are 3 stars that I really was looking forward to. So books that like everybody's talking about and everybody loves, and then I read them and I'm like, it's average, it's all right, I didn't love it, didn't hate it, and that's what makes a disappointing read. And I actually have 3 of those that I read that were ones I was really highly anticipating because they get very high ratings online and people rave about them, and then I just thought they were okay. And one was Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. People just love Celeste Ng's books, and I just didn't love it. I thought her writing was good, but I wasn't compelled by the story. I just didn't get into it, didn't like it. It was like meh for me, 3 stars. And then another one is Furthermore by Tahereh Mafi, which is a middle grade fantasy, and I love middle grade fantasy, and people talk about this one all the time. And it was like so flowery of writing that I couldn't even like picture anything that was happening in the story, so it just kind of fell flat for me. So that was another one that really disappointed me. And then the last one was one I read recently, which is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle, and this was a romantic comedy, but like a hate to love romance, and it was just too much hate before we get to the love. And so a lot of people have been raving about it, and I just had to push myself through to finish it, and so I just gave it 3 stars. So all 3 of those were really disappointing, and I had more of these like 3-star disappointing reads, but those are the 3 that I think got like the most high ratings and rave reviews online, and I was just like, they're fine, not great. So those are disappointing. Number 6 is Biggest Surprise. And for this, I want to talk about one I read just recently, so I haven't even reviewed it on here. And that's Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I just read this last week, and I really thought it was amazing. And I wouldn't say that it's a surprise because I didn't think it was going to be amazing, because people talk about how great this book is. The reason I wasn't sure I would like it is that I thought that I didn't like books written in verse. Like, I'd read a few and I was like, I didn't think it was my medium. I didn't think I would really like it because of the style of writing, but it was like he crammed in so much character and feeling in this book, and in the audiobook it's only 2 hours long. I was amazed at how like invested I was in this story and the characters with it only being 2 hours. So that was what was the surprise to me. It wasn't because everybody else thought it was great, but it was because of the style. I didn't think I would like it, and he got me. Like, I really liked that book. And then number 7 is a favorite new author. Either that's somebody that just has a new debut out, or somebody new to you. And for this one, I had a hard time because I was looking through all my 5-star reads so far this year, and almost all of them are authors that I have read before. And so I had a hard time finding one that was like a new favorite author. And I had one that was a 5-star read from an author I hadn't read before, but I hesitate about calling her a new favorite author because I've only read the one book. So I'm gonna say it, but I don't want to hold myself to it because I haven't read another one of hers yet, and I feel like you have to read at least 2 books before you can say somebody's a new favorite author. And that was Be Not Far From Me by Mindy McGinnis. I absolutely love this book. I thought it was so well written, and it was a survival story. Survival stories are something that I really enjoy, but I like it when the main character in a survival story is not stupid. In other words, that they're not just in that situation because they're doing one stupid thing after another. And I didn't think the main character was like that. I thought she was doing her best to try to get out of that situation. And I just really liked it, the way it was written. But I can't say Mindy McGinnis is a new favorite author of mine necessarily because I haven't read anything else. So I would like to try one of her other books so I can actually make that statement. And number 8 is newest fictional crush, and I don't have an answer for this. I know a lot of people don't answer this either. I was even trying to see if I could like substitute it by talking about my new favorite ship or something, and I didn't even have one of those this year. So, I mean, I really liked the couple from Beach Read, but I wouldn't call them like a ship. I just liked the whole book, not necessarily just shipping them as a couple. So yeah, I have no answer for number 8. Number 9 is newest favorite character, and I'll have to say probably Anne from Anne of Green Gables. I had never read any of the Anne books before, and I've read through book 5, and I'm starting book 6 soon, and I've just really loved Anne and her character. She's so charming. I just adore how she makes mistakes, but then she tries to make them better. I also have to say from that series, Marilla is another one of my new favorite characters. I adore her, how at the very beginning she's really gruff and doesn't want Anne and is a tough person to read from, and then as the series go on, I just love her more and more. So both Anne and Marilla from Anne of Green Gables are my new favorite characters. Number 10 is a book that made you cry. And I probably could talk about a couple, I don't like all that sob at books, but I have teared up at a few books this year, but the one I want to talk about is one that I wouldn't have expected to be a book I cried, because it's a thriller. So I read recently Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier, and this is a thriller about a child abduction, and I don't often like those because I feel like they're only I don't know, the way they focus on the child abduction, I just don't find them interesting. But in this one, we're following the mom, and she is part of this support group of people who have all had their children gone missing. And the time that we spent with that support group, it was just so well done. I was feeling for each one of those people. I felt fully invested in these missing children cases that I was there was times when we were in that group that I cried. I think I cried more than once during this book, and it was all in the scenes involving that support group. And yeah, the author just did a great job, I think, in talking about what it's like to have a missing child. I mean, I haven't had one, so I don't know firsthand experience, but as a parent, I was really feeling for those other parents. And so yeah, I cried a few times in that book. Number 11 is a book that made you happy. And I could once again talk about Beach Read, but I'm going to go back to one I read early in the year, and that is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. Emma Lord. And this was just an adorable YA, contemporary, romance type thing. And a lot of people talked about this online, so I won't go into the details, but it's they're rivals, their parents both own restaurants, and one is accused of stealing a recipe from another one, and they go back and forth, and just the way their friendship develops and then into their romance. It was just adorable and cute, and I just loved the whole thing. I loved the way they interacted with each other and how it developed, and yeah, it just made me happy. It made my little heart oh, so sweet and cute. And then number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought so far. Now I feel bad I didn't bring these out, but I will find the exact covers that I bought and put them up here, because usually I don't necessarily search out specific editions of books, but I do for these 2 books. I want to collect these specific editions, and one is the L.M. Montgomery books that are made by Source Books, and I'll put pictures of them here. I bought the Blue Castle and the 3 Emily books in this edition because I just think they're beautiful. They're like watercolor, and yeah, they just make me really happy looking at them on my shelf, and I will be very excited to read from these editions. And the other editions that I really love are the Pelican Shakespeare. I just, in my book haul that you probably saw a couple days ago, I just bought another one. I bought Macbeth, but I've also bought Much Ado About Nothing and Twelfth Night in this specific edition, and I just love them. They're color-coded by the type of play, so all of the tragedies have a black cover, and I think the like bright color with the black background looks beautiful, and then the comedies all have like this light blue background and more of a whimsical look to them, and then the sonnets have a yellow background and the histories have a maroon background. And so I'm just slowly collecting these. Like I said, I only have 3 right now, but as they come on like a cheaper price or whatever, deals, I pick them up because I just love these editions. And then the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I don't really like set my TBR for the whole year, but if you just watched my book haul a couple days ago, I just got a ton of books from the library, and obviously I have to return them to the library before the end of this year, in the next couple months. So I'll just say all the books from my library book haul I need to read this year so I can return them back to the library before they're due. And that's all I'm gonna say, because I don't like have specific books I have to read coming up other than if they need to be returned. And that's it for me. I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.